The activity this weekend from advocates on both sides of the debate proves that abortion is still as contentious a topic as ever before. This is reflected in laws addressing the life issue, with half of states across the U.S. working to ban abortion, while the other half continues their full-throated effort to expand so-called reproductive rights. And abortion seems nowhere near unthinkable in the minds of many Americans, with a new poll from Gallup indicating that more than half of respondents think overturning Roe was a bad move. So where do we go from here? We recently discussed this with Kristan Hawkins, and she had a lot to say about how our nation's young people play a role. Take a look. Joining us now is Kristan Hawkins, president of Students for Life of America. Kristan, thank you so much for being with me. You were at the Supreme Court the moment the decision came down, and you were really the one who announced it to the world. So take me back to that moment.
Yeah, it was a true honor to be there and to be that one who got to read aloud the decision that the Supreme Court released, that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. Roe and Casey are overruled. It was a culmination for me, for my life's work, for 17 years since launching Students for Life, since building up this army of 1,400 young people. But I think, the message that I had for all the young people that were out there with us that day celebrating was that was really just the beginning for this movement, especially for this generation of pro-life activists. We were there standing on the shoulders of giants, of the founders of the pro-life movement, people like Phyllis Schlafly and Jack Wilkie and Dr. Mildred Jefferson, those who didn't live to see the day Roe was reversed, but were instrumental in producing that day. But now for this generation, the challenge is, what do we do next? How do we fully achieve that goal of the pro-life movement of making abortion unthinkable and unavailable in our lifetime? How do we, since the fall of Roe, go back to the states and pass laws to protect children and women from the predatory abortion industry? How do we continue to push in Washington, D.C.? What are we doing in our communities to continue to raise awareness of nonviolent resources? This is really an all hands on deck for the entire movement right now. And there's so many areas where we all need to engage.
Yes, and you're right, Kristan, I'm sorry. You're right that this is largely about the next generation. The overturn of Roe seems to have made the public debate on abortion more vitriolic than it's ever been. So how was the decision received on college campuses and among young people? Is it reflective of that kind of split in our country right now?
Absolutely. There's a lot of confusion, and the left has been very good at working with the abortion lobby to create that confusion. You mentioned a poll from Gallup of Americans, disagree with reversal of Roe. I would ask a very simple question. Ask those Americans to tell us what Roe versus Wade did, because the fact is, and the fact remains, the majority of Americans still don't know the extremism of Roe versus Wade, what it really did in our country. And so we've been having conversations. We started arming our students last spring for this moment to be ready, to be vigilant, be on guard, be ready to do more than ever. And so we hit the ground running this year, having more conversations with a goal that we will reach of having 1 million conversations with Gen Z. Those are in high school and college this year about abortion. So doing more than ever before, but also, combating the vandalism and the violence and the First Amendment free speech attacks that we see. We saw a threefold increase this year, our highest number of incidents since I launched Students for Life, more than 100. It was, and in some of those videos, folks might have seen, we're at Hunter College with a professor who flipped over the table when we were talking about chemical abortion and then greeted a reporter at the door with a machete. The Antifa attacks on me at Virginia Commonwealth University of threatening me, shutting down the entire event. These attacks continue. The abortion lobby, and you have to realize when you're on campuses talking to people about abortion, you have people who have bought into the lies for a very long time about what abortion was. And so there's a lot of fear mongering, and that produces just scared people. There's also a lot of people, young people who have chosen abortion. So talking about abortion being a moral wrong or that abortion should never be allowed triggers them, brings up all of those feelings of regret that they have, that icky feeling they have in their gut about that abortion decision they made. And so all those feelings bubble up to the surface, and we're the ones on that front line, having that conversation, but then also having to deal with, those people who are wounded. They're those walking wounded, and trying to connect them to post-abortive healing resources as fast as soon as possible, and building that relationship with those people to hear us out about how there is healing, there is forgiveness if they seek it.
Sure. Yeah. And you make a good point that the overturn of Roe and the passing of pro-life laws is making students think about this from a moral perspective more than they ever have before, especially those who have had abortions. I want to get your reaction to a poll in Time magazine, a recent poll. It says that access to abortion is impacting where students choose to go to college. It said that out of 12,000 people surveyed, about 3/4 of college students were guided by the state's laws on abortion when it came to staying at their university or leaving. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's really interesting because it actually points to something that we've been saying in the pro-life movement for a long time, that a lot of people didn't want to hear, is that many people in our country have come to view abortion as a backup birth control method. It's the parachute or get out of jail free card. And this is reflective of years and years of conversations and studies we've done with young people about how they view abortion. Where one hand will say, I don't like abortion, I wouldn't have an abortion, but on the other hand would say, well, I still think it should be legal. Because what the reality is if you're living your life in a way or making decisions that could produce a new human being, if you're having, you're engaging in premarital sex on a campus and you're there, you've taken out tens of thousands of dollars in loans to get that college degree, you obviously have a career goal for yourself. Many people don't like to think about a biological consequence of their decision to engage in sex could be the creation of a unique human life. And so I think that's a really interesting poll that you brought up, because I think a lot of people are starting to, for the first time, and this is where we talk about the culture has to change as well as laws. A lot of people are starting to realize this isn't just this backup birth control method, that you may actually have to change some decisions you're making. If you're sleeping with a man or if you're sleeping with a girl and you don't see an 18-year-long potential parental relationship with that partner, maybe you shouldn't be engaging in those behaviors to begin with.
Yeah, it's making people think twice. And Kristan, talk to me about what young people in our movement are doing on the culture side of this. What are Students for Life, students on campuses doing?
We're delivering diapers and baby formula and literally going door to door with wagons this summer at Students for Life in key neighborhoods surrounding abortion facilities, helping pregnant women and families in crisis through our Standing With You initiative. We're also engaging politically in primary elections, educating voters well before next year about where candidates stand, because to be quite honest with you, and you know this, Prudence, we've had a lot of political leaders for a long time who've said that they were pro-life. But then this year, when they were, at the State House or in Washington, D.C., and a chance to be pro-life and vote came up, they failed to do that. And so we have a lot of voter education that needs to go on about those who aren't really that courageous in their pro-life beliefs and why they probably need to step aside at this point. We're going to be having conversations online and then at Christian music festivals with young Christians. So it's very much more of the same of what we were doing before Roe versus Wade was reversed, but it's just amplified 100-fold.
Well, that is so exciting, and we're so grateful for all the work that you've done for many, many years to get us to this moment. We'll continue to track everything that Students for Life is doing in the year ahead. Kristan Hawkins, Students for Life of America, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Keep praying for us.
Of course, will do.